Hi there. I held a Stamp-A-Stack on Tuesday of this week, and I had a couple of people who weren't able to make it. So I'm going to show this one card that we created together. I think I have everything here with me. If I don't, then I'll have to pop out of the video real quick. I'm sorry. So what you're going to need is, my customers made 4 of this card. So you're going to need 4 11 by 4.5 inch folded Whisper White cardstock. So it's 4.5 by 11, but you're going to fold that in half. Then you're going to need 4 5.5 by 4 inch of the Rich Razzleberry, 4 of the 5 by 3 3/4 Whisper White cardstock. You're going to need a 1-inch circle. You're also going to need 4 pieces of ribbon. This is the denim ribbon. You're going to need 4 Whisper White mountains. I've already cut these out. The cards that I'm sending out to my friends who weren't able to make it, a lot of them don't have a way to emboss, so I'm sending these cards already embossed. And then you're going to need, I think that's it. Oh, the 3 3/4 and 2 1/2 inch Whisper White, and that is going to be for the bottom part of the card. So let me get started here. We're going to fold this piece in half, and then we're going to adhere the Rich Razzleberry. I've made several of these cards already, and I love them. I've done different variations, and I think they're so pretty. So this was a masculine card Stamp-A-Stack. So all of the cards, we made 12 of them, 4 of 3 different designs, and all of them were masculine. So I'm going to just set that aside. Now for this, you will need a little bit of adhesive, and we're going to put that right about here on the card. And then I'm going to use some Night of Navy and a Stampin' Up sponge sprayer. Stampin' Up sells these sponge sprayers. You can buy the replacement pieces, just the foam itself, or they also sell the round sponges, and you just cut these up in quarters and you can do the same thing with them. I prefer using the brayer. So we're just going to ink this up, and then we're going to start off of the paper, and very lightly we just want to start onto the paper, go down, just a little bit past the moon, or what's going to be the moon, and then go back up. The more times you do this, the darker it will be. So it's up to you how dark you want it. But you just keep going back and forth. And then after it is the way that you want it, then we're going to go over it with the Rich Razzleberry. And again, we're going to do this very lightly. This is the brayer for the Rich Razzleberry, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start off over here and then work our way down the card. And you can put as much or as little on there as you want. And when you got it to where you like it, then you quit. It's raining outside. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's really coming down. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this off, this 1-inch circle. And if it left a little bit of adhesive on the cardstock, that's okay. You can just use your finger and just take that off. It comes off real easily. And there we go. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is use the crumb cake to stamp one of the to stamp the mountains that I'm going to use for the background. So I'm going to use this large mountain. It's smooth on one side and then detailed on the other. So you want to make sure that you have the detailed, or I'm sorry, the detailed side down. The whole stamp is not going to fit on this card, but you'll see what I mean when I am going to use this as part of the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp it, I'm going to ink it up, and then I'm going to stamp off, because I don't want I don't want them to be really dark. So now I'm going to stamp it right below the moon, like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing, only with the Night of Navy. These photopolymer stamps, they clean off with just water. Stampin' Up! Sells a chamois, and I just put it in one of the, I ordered some of their cases, and I just keep it in there to keep it moist, and it usually stays moist for several hours. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp again. I'm going to use the smooth side because this is still the background. And I'm going to just offset these. First I'll stamp off. I'm going to offset these because I don't want them to line up exactly. There we go. And so you can barely see the crumb cake in the background, and then the Night of Navy in the front. Now we're going to flip the stamp over and stamp it again with the Night of Navy, but this time with the detailed side of the stamp. Something to note, if you have these photopolymer stamps and they lose their stickiness, all you need to do is put them in a bowl or something, and then with a little bit of dish soap, and just let it soak in there, and then you can take it out and just let it dry by itself, and the stickiness all comes back. So we'll ink this up, and I'm not going to stamp off this time. And I didn't go all the way across. Okay, that's all right. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so the next thing I did was I took a piece of cardstock and I used the detailed side of the stamp, and I stamped it in Versamark and then stamped it on this white cardstock. Then I took the mountain range die and I cut it out. So when I cut it out, I didn't want to cut off the bottom because I need that part to adhere the mountains to the card. So you just slip your cardstock right inside like this so it doesn't cut off the bottom, and just line it up with your mountain tops and then run it through the boss. It's what we call the new Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So now, since I've already got this part done, I'm going to go ahead and adhere it with Stampin' Dimensionals. And I know I grabbed them. Just one moment. Okay, so I'm going to use 3 of these on the back side, down towards the bottom. And now I'm going to line this up, I guess about here. Maybe I'll go a little lower. Maybe I'll go a little higher. You just have to figure out where you want to put it. I don't want to cover up the other ones though all the way, but I do want to cover up the white space below. There we go. Okay. The next thing I did was I used a sponge dauber and some purple posy. Nope, that's Seaside Spray. Excuse me a moment. So you can either use a light lavender or a blue to kind of give the mountains the look of snow, and it kind of increases the depth of the stamp. So you want to stamp off a little bit with that, and then you just barely, and I mean very light-handedly, just go over this and try to just touch off on the part that is raised. And you don't have to do all of it, just part of it. It makes a very pretty picture. Okay, so then the next thing I did was I used the brayer again on this piece, and I used Old Olive this time. So we're going to ink this up. Now this time we're going to start off on the side of the paper again, but we're going to go over the entire card lightly. I try not to overlap too much at first, and then I go back and go a little deeper in some areas. Okay. And again, it doesn't have to be the same depth of color all the way across the card. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is grab the garden green. Switch out my stamp, and I'm going to use this stamp, which is also smooth on one side and raised on the other, and these are the evergreen trees. They don't look like evergreen trees here, but they are. It's really cool. If you don't have this stamp set, it makes some beautiful cards. So I'm going to just ink this up like so. I'm not going to stamp off this time. I'm going to stamp as close to the top of the cardstock as I can get. Trying not to go off of the cardstock. See that? Isn't that pretty? This is so pretty. Now I'm going to stamp off here because when I clean this stamp, I don't want it. This gets dirty. Well, it gets inky, I should say. And you can just run it under water and clean it off. So the next thing I'm going to do here is, this is the this is the die that goes with these trees, and all you need to do is line it up. And sometimes it's hard to figure exactly where it goes, but that looks about right. Yep, I think so. So all I'm going to do now is cut off the top of this. So I will be right back. Now that I've got that cut, I will use dimensionals and adhere it. Now, I always start out with a larger piece of cardstock than what I need because I never know for sure how far down I'm going to come with the mountain